Hi, how you doing? This is
Sir Gideon Othniel, the all-knowing
Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. So we're talking some more about Elden Ring. No, we're not doing that today. We're not doing that for this video. So, with my first Elden Ring video, the actual problems with Elden Ring, I expected to get some criticism. Absolutely. It would be crazy of me not to expect criticism. But for the most part, reception to the video was positive. Lots of folks agreeing with my arguments and what I had to say, and it was nice to get some confirmation that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the only one that had these issues with Elden Ring. I would hope and like to think that I was reasonable and rational with my arguments and presentation, skirting that fine line between objectivity and subjectivity. But hey, it's a big old world out there and there's a lot of people that are way smarter than me, and I have no doubt could develop some intelligent counterpoints that I never would have thought of. This comment we're about to review from my The Actual Problems with Elden Ring video is not one of those intelligent counterpoints. What's all the more disappointing is that this comment comes from someone who I believe is a regular viewer, and I'm sorry to do this to you, dude, but your comment was bad, man. Your comment was really bad. I can't not break this down, because I have no doubt there's a ton of Elden Ring fanboys who genuinely believe this nonsense, and it's gotta be called out, man. Please, I'm begging all of you watching, do not give this dude shit, do not harass him, we are criticizing the ideas and arguments presented here, okay? Alright, let's get into this. This is gonna hurt. My main point towards your arguments: game design. One of the things that Western developers got salty about Elden Ring's success is its departure from modern mechanics that made people get accustomed to. First off, this has nothing to do with my video or anything I talk about in it. Second, these Western developers you're talking about were literally just a few people on Twitter. A few people on Twitter that a bunch of YouTubers then decided, hey, let's blow this wholly out of proportion and drum up gamer outrage over to make a profit. Everyone talks about these few developers on Twitter that didn't like Elden Ring. They never talk about the harassment those developers received after these YouTubers made all their videos on these Twitter users, eh? This is a non-issue, this is a non-story, this is a nothing burger. I don't understand why you're bringing this up. This is just adding needless bloat to your comment. This game literally just drops you into the world and doesn't tell you what to do. You do whatever you want. While the do whatever you want part is true, the just drops you into the world and doesn't tell you what to do is objectively false. You have the opening cutscene, which gives you the setting, premise, and the player a definitive goal: become Elden Lord. The game then almost immediately throws you into a boss fight, which you're meant to die to and most likely going to. You are then presented with an optional tutorial dungeon or straight into the open world. Elden Ring's opening, beginning, new game experience is nothing unique, new, or special. Tons of games do what Elden Ring does for its starting experience. And all of this has nothing to fucking do with my video or anything I say in it, so I don't know why you wrote this and put this in your comments. Hey, if you just want to praise Elden Ring, go ahead, I'm all for it, but at least praise it for things that are actually true? Now with that in the back of your mind, we can see the game design decisions of not making a game, but making an experience. Oh dear sweet baby Jesus, no! All, and every video game is a fucking experience. Is Elden Ring an experience? Yes, absolutely. But so is Call of Duty. So is various Ubisoft games. So are even mobile games like Diablo Immortal. Elden Ring is a game and an experience. While I would certainly argue that Elden Ring in many ways is a special experience, it's not wholly original or unique. Again, Elden Ring is an exceptional video game deserving of praise, but let's not put it on this ridiculous pedestal like it's the second coming of Christ. Can't pause the game? Yes, because you don't pause experiences. I'm sorry, shut the fuck up. I know that's extremely rude of me, but no, dude, stop. Stop. Elden Ring is a video game. It will never not be a video game. Just because you really enjoyed Elden Ring, just because you love Elden Ring, again, I love Elden Ring, I enjoy Elden Ring, it's still a video game. It's not going to stop being a video game just because you really like it. And don't fucking compare Elden Ring to something like surfing, or riding a horse, or climbing a mountain. Those are real life experiences that you indeed cannot pause. Elden Ring is a video game. It's a great video game, but it's still just a video game. And real-life activities and responsibilities take precedence over video games. This is a terrible argument for not being allowed to pause in a video game. You have something to do IRL? Find a safe spot to take a break. And if I'm in the middle of combat while the phone is ringing, there's a knock on the door, or something else far more urgent and important than a video game happens to happen at that moment, come on, man, you gotta be reasonable here. You won't always be able to find a safe spot to take a break 24/7 when playing a game. That is not how life works. This is a terrible argument for not being able to pause in a game at any time, especially when playing a video game offline single player. The same way you don't pause a movie at a cinema because you have to go to the toilet. Dude, come on! Don't give me this bullshit! Are you seriously, honestly, trying to argue that playing Elden Ring is the same as watching a movie at the cinema? Playing Elden Ring single player offline by yourself is the same as watching a movie in a cinema with a group of other people who paid to watch the movie? Come the fuck on, dude. Playing an offline single player video game by yourself is not the fucking same as watching a movie at the cinema. Come on, man. This is an atrocious argument for not being able to pause an offline single-player game whenever I want. Anyways, he continues. Can't replay boss fights? Yes, because the journey before challenging a boss is as important as fighting the boss itself. That's totally subjective, my dude. That's totally personal to the individual, whether that matters to them or not. Some people who play Elden Ring don't like the bosses at all and are just here for the open world content. Some people love the boss battles in Elden Ring and that's the reason they play. Again, this is totally subjective, man. Some people will love the journey, some won't care, some will hate it. Replaying boss fights removes the pre-boss adventures? I'm sorry, what the fuck? Dude, I'm gonna be blunt with you. That's one of the most nonsensical fucking things I have ever read. First off, that's objectively false. It just fucking is. Being able to replay boss fights in Elden Ring wouldn't just somehow delete your memories of everything leading up to the boss fight. That's not how the human mind works. That doesn't make any sense. I have absolutely no idea how you could possibly come to this absolutely nonsensical conclusion. By this insane, illogical logic of yours, having New Game Plus in Elden Ring somehow deletes all your memories of the previous playthrough? Or starting a new character a second playthrough? By your irrational, illogical logic, a second character, second playthrough, fighting the bosses again on this other character would delete all the memories of your first playthrough? Like, dude, come on, man. Did you proofread your comment at all before you posted it? It takes but seconds to analyze and dissect your statement, and it immediately starts to unravel. Being able to replay boss fights in Elden Ring would not remove pre-boss adventures. That's just objectively untrue and makes absolutely no sense. The fascinating thing about this game is the fact that every single person will have completely different paths to the bosses. That's the same for tons and tons of different video games, my dude. Elden Ring is not unique in that regard. It's a very nice aspect of the game that I appreciate by all means, but it's not uniquely fascinating when you compare it to every other video game that's ever released ever. The literal mechanics of refighting bosses is in itself a gamification of experiences. Okay, so what? So let me get this straight. Refighting boss fights is a gamification of games and is bad, but Torrent being able to double jump isn't, being able to fast travel between sites of grace isn't, all the enemies respawning and resetting every time you sit at a site of grace isn't. Oh, that's fine. Refighting the bosses, respawning the bosses, that's too far, but with everything else in the world, with all the other enemies, that's fine, apparently? What about Elden Ring's multiplayer and invasions? Those mechanics are gamifications by your standards. Dude, come on. You're being a massive hypocrite here. There's no logical consistency in this argument, and all I have to do is look at Elden Ring, look at its features and mechanics, and there's a ton of video gamey gamification elements and things about it. Being able to respawn, replay, refight boss battles in Elden Ring would not make Elden Ring a lesser experience, it would not make it a worse game, it would only make it a better game. This is a terrible argument, man. It holds no water. Now, you were talking about mods. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you can make mods out of a game. It's not the default, so no one will use it. Oh, why? Why, dude? Why would you write something so stupid and so easy to prove false? Pause the game mod, over 30,000 downloads. Elden Ring Reforged, over 40,000 downloads. Elden Ring Easy Mode, over 100,000 downloads. The Seamless Co-op mod, almost 500,000 downloads. It's not the default, so no one will use it. Come on, man. You're being dishonest. You're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. We have a literal study showing that people will not go out of their way to change their settings from a non-default. Is this study concerning console gamers, casual PC gamers, hardcore PC gamers? I haven't seen this study, but I suspect there may be some flaws in its deduction. A lot of people say they would, but most people don't at the end of the day. So all the people who want to make mods for games and use mods for games, because they're not the overwhelming majority, they don't matter? Come on, man, this is a terrible argument. So if a majority of people jump off a cliff, that means they're in the right and we should all jump off the cliff with them. Come on, man. Another experiment also showed that people have tendency of removing the fun out of their game, hence game designers' job to protect gamers from themselves. Yeah, I heard of that study, and it's totally subjective and contextual and completely dependent on the unique player of the game and what kind of game they're playing, the genre, the design, etc., etc. This experiment you're referencing only applies in very specific conditions in a very specific context. Not every gamer is the same, not every gamer plays games in the same way, and not all games play the same. This experiment is not an excuse to generalize. What he meant by that is that people have a tendency of taking the easiest path to a problem, and the UI and UX elements, such as the UI marker, or in this case, the ability to pause the game, were ways for people to get out of problems easily. Jesus Christ, man! Being able to pause the game is not getting out of a problem! It's quality of life and convenience! It's consideration for the consumer! In-game video game scenarios are not the same as having to stop playing the video game and go deal with more important real-life issues. If I'm in the middle of a boss fight and I get a phone call or a knock at the door or there's something else important that I have to stop playing the game to take care of, I then proceed to die in-game and lose progress because I can't pause the game. How does that make Elden Ring a better game, a more fulfilling experience, by inconveniencing me because I have to go do something more important than playing the video game? Come on, man, this is a terrible argument, and the points you're making here don't even properly connect to one another. You're talking about UI and UX conveniences, and somehow relate that to being able to pause the game in single-player offline mode whenever I want. UI and UX is not the same as being able to pause the game. Being able to pause the game doesn't somehow get you out of an in-game problem. All it does is pause the game! If you're somehow referring to the minute amount of players that would use pausing the game as an exploit in boss battles, come on, man. So because of a few people who would compromise their experience that way, we all have to suffer? Jesus Christ, man. Terrible, terrible arguments. You're sweating during a boss fight, and you need to wipe your hands. Too bad, there's no pause, so you'll have to overcome that physical strain as well? And that's just part of what makes this game such an amazing game? Holy shit! That's one of the most nonsensical things I've ever read. What? Dude, is Elden Ring like one of the only few video games you've ever played? Not being able to pause a video game is not unique to Elden Ring. Hello! Multiplayer and co-op games! Yeah, if you're playing multiplayer co-op, there will be some inconveniences. There will be some physical strains, as you put it. Those are just the consequences of playing and interacting with other people. We have to accept it, that's just the way it is. But playing a video game, offline single player, and not being able to pause during a boss battle so I can take care of something else IRL, or a physical strain as you put it, doesn't make a video game amazing, doesn't make it good. It's just an inconvenience. You're not being rational or logical here, dude. You're just making up these bizarre defenses for Elden Ring because you like the game so much. I'm glad you like Elden Ring. I like Elden Ring too. That doesn't give me the go-ahead to make bizarre excuses defending the game from justified criticism. Look, dude, I have tons of video games that I love, single player, co-op, multiplayer, and you can't pause the game. I still love those games, I still have fun playing with them, they're still great games, but not being able to pause the game when I'm playing it in offline single player mode is still a problem, is still a flaw, is still an inconvenience. We shouldn't be crafting user experience for people to easily navigate through the game. We should be crafting user experiences to create memorable experiences for that user and force players to solve problems of the game on their own. Again, that's totally subjective and unique to the player and the developer and the type of game. This is a terribly closed-minded perspective, and you're actively advocating for developers to be restricted in how they want to design games. Different video game players want different things. Different video game developers want different things. Not every player wants to play the same game you do. Not every developer wants to make the same game you want to play. This is a toxic perspective you got here, man. You gotta get out of it. Find a good spot to take a break is part of that user experience and goes against the pause the game anywhere you want and you're 100% safe, hence literally breaking the flow of the experience of a fight moment. Objectively false, and that's also totally subjective at the same time. If you're, for some reason, bizarrely perturbed by being able to pause a game whenever you want and it breaks the flow and the experience of a fight moment for you, that's on you, dude. That's not on the game, that's not on the developers. That's just a weird, bizarre pet peeve that you have. Unable to pause the game is not a limitation, it absolutely is. Stop. It absolutely is. It's a game design decision to move away from modern design concepts that we're all enslaved to. First of all, you're projecting. Second of all, we're enslaved to pause buttons in video games? Dude, did a fucking pause button in a video game kill your parents? What's going on? Why are you so against being able to pause a video game? We're enslaved to being able to pause video games. Are you fucking kidding me? We're enslaved to a totally reasonable, totally ordinary player convenience in a video game. Jesus Christ, man! Dude, you're starting to sound fucking fanatical. We're enslaved to pause buttons in video games. Come on, man, this is just childish. I don't know you. I don't know what your personal situation is, but the way you've presented yourself and presented your arguments here, I can't help but get the strong impression of someone who doesn't have a lot of real-life responsibilities and maybe has a bit too much free time on their hands to play video games. Again, I don't know you personally, but I'm just saying, dude, the way you've written this and presented it, these ideas, like, they give off the impression of someone with a very isolated, very narrow perspective. And an unhealthy one at that. The sales prove it as well, that the game's design decision to provide an experience instead of a game really hit people's sense of adventure. Dude, you're just projecting, and you have absolutely no way to prove this. This is an absolutely ridiculous claim to make. Elden Ring is a video game. It's not going to magically stop being a video game just because you really like it. What the sales prove is that Elden Ring is a good video game that had some really good marketing, a lot of excitement and hype around it, and really good word of mouth. The rest of his comment goes on a World of Warcraft tangent that has nothing to do with my video or anything I said. So we're done here. Wow. Fucking wow, man. The lengths people will go to defend their favorite video games. Again, Elden Ring is a great video game, but you know what would make it even better? Being able to pause the game in offline single-player mode and respawn, replay, refight boss battles. Convenience, replayability, and a wee bit more mechanics, features, and content doesn't make a video game inherently worse. I just want to emphasize again one last time, there's nothing wrong with loving Elden Ring. I totally get it. But performing mental gymnastics to try and defend Elden Ring from any and all criticism and present it like it's an absolutely perfect video game with nothing wrong and nothing about it that could be improved, at that point, you've got to take a step back and self-reflect, my guys. Anyways, that's been a video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video in any way, shape, or form, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share the video on social media, Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook, and if you want to help out and support me directly, links to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description, and you can always leave a YouTube super thanks. Anyways, once again, that's been a video, and I'll see you guys later.